Welcome in, everybody, to the Sunday edition of NBA Live here at FTNDaily.com, presented to you, as always, by Superdraft Daily Fantasy. My name is Zach Graham, a.k.a. Kawaisenberg DFS. It's been 2 days since I talked while muted on this stream, and it's been longer since I saw Joe Metz, my good buddy. So, Joe, how you doing on this Sunday? How was your Christmas?
It was good. Has it been long? It has been 3 days. Yeah, we had a extensive, probably like 4 hours together on Thursday. It was I had a ton of fun. Christmas was good. I think the best part of it was just seeing Max, open everything, and he obviously more infatuated with the tissue paper and the wrapping paper than the actual gifts themselves. But good nonetheless. I came into a shitstorm of an NBA slate, and if all goes well, you and I will be playing each other in the finals of the FTN Staff League. So take that, NFL team. So I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, me too, man. And a lot of moving parts. So we'll dispense of the rest of the pleasantries. Obviously, you and I could bullshit with the best of them, but we'll start 3 of these 7 games going off right at 6 p.m. Eastern at main slate lock. 2 more at 7, 1 at 8, and then 1 at 9 at Denver and Clippers. Late night hammer. Let's go ahead and start Toronto at Cleveland. Toronto, depending on where you look, 7, 8, or 9 guys available. Well, we will talk about all of them. As Eddie pointed out on the Christmas stream late night the other night, some of these teams, it's more just beneficial and quicker to just list who's in rather than who's out. So for the Raptors, and I think the tweet was dropped in here into the Discord. So we've got Delano Banton, Svi Mikhailuk, Yuta Watanabe, Chris Boucher, Tremont Waters, DJ Wilson, Daniel Aturu, and Jawan Morgan are the 8 Raptors available. Delano Banton mistakenly tagged as out on DraftKings. I just refreshed one of the contests on DraftKings. That out tag has been removed. So no more questions need to be asked about that. Those are the Raptors who are available, all of them for 5,800 and less. So, Joe, when you look at this Raptors 905 team, the G League team, what stands out to you?
Well, I think the first thing that stands out, and it was talked about in Discord, like they have very little bodies. This game could be an absolute mess because like these guys have not played together. With that said, I don't think people should buy too much into that narrative because these guys are professional basketball players. There are 8 people. If there were 7, they obviously would have to cancel the game, but there are 8 people available. That is enough where I don't care if you haven't played together. Someone is going to produce, and they're forced to produce. I think off the bat, I know Nick Nurse has been very, very hesitant to give Chris Boucher his minutes. Like you and I have talked about, he's not a young player that needs to develop. He's 29 years old, spent 5, 6, 7, 8 years in the G League. You know what you're getting from him, but this is a spot where he's kind of going to be forced into. I would like to think 30 minutes when their backup bigs now are, like someone like a DJ Wilson, who there's been times where he's been a good per minute producer, but I just don't see how Chris Boucher doesn't see at least 28 minutes. And at 5K flat, dual position eligibility on FanDuel, 5.8, I believe. And on this slate, a very important dual position eligibility on DraftKings. I think he's my favorite Raptor play. But then if I had to just quick like bullet point rank them, I think from there it would go Svi Mikhailuk second, Delano Banton, or Tremont Waters third, and the other one fourth, whichever one I want to put third. But I really want exposure to those guards that are going to be handling the ball the most.
Yeah, for me, specifically with this team on DraftKings, 4 10s in the rankings out of these 8 Raptors players, Joe. I got Boucher, Svi Mikhailuk, Delano Banton, and Tremont Waters. Obviously, as you mentioned, Banton and Waters on DraftKings down near the minimum. So in terms of points per dollar in your projections, those guys are going to really stand out. And you don't have to go much farther in the rankings. Yuta Watanabe at 4.7. He got the 9 on DK, a 10 on Superdraft, though, where he's got the 2X tag. Also, I mean, really all of these Raptors, not all of them available. Like certain Raptors are not available on certain sites. Like you're not going to have Daniel Aturu on DraftKings. He's still listed as a Chicago Bull. I can speak with the insider knowledge, right, that DJ Wilson not available on Superdraft, not available to be added to the player pool. So a little behind the scenes look for you there, Joe. Tried to get DJ Wilson in there in the last hour, unable to be done. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like pick and choose your favorites here, right? Like I have no issue getting Chris Boucher as much as you possibly can, given the fact that barring him fouling out, which could happen, he's going to have to get massive minutes today. So it's, I think, especially with that forward eligibility, both on DraftKings and our sponsor Superdraft, he's a fantastic play. That's, I think, where I would start. And then I would slightly prefer Banton over Waters down there. But again, all these guys in play for me and very strong plays.
Yeah, I agree. I do think we'll probably see Tremont Waters share the court most with DJ Wilson, just because they have played together. They played on the Bucks G League team. The Wisconsin hurt quite a bit last year. So I think when you have players that haven't even met the coach yet, or have just met Nick Nurse, and that was a comment made, like they're going to rely on any type of chemistry they can have, and those two have some. So I think a lot of those rotations will line up together. But the starting lineup is obviously going to be the most important here. Everyone is going to get a lot of minutes. Starter is probably one additional rotation, but I agree. Delano Banton, I do think I would prefer it. He's still listed as out on the main slate on DraftKings. So I'm staring at it.
So, Joe, sorry to interrupt. I did just refresh, and also HB Cards pointed out the Arturo point of this to me. Banton is no longer listed as out on DraftKings.
I'm staring at it right now. He's listed as out on my screen.
Really? That's weird that's going in and out, because I see him with no tag, and I also now see Arturo on Toronto. So whoever's pushing buttons over there at DraftKings, let's just get it straight here. Less than an hour until lock.
If they leave Banton is out and just somewhat surprised ownership, I'll take it.
That's a big boost for us for sure. Interesting though, changing teams. I had refreshed as of 15 minutes ago. Oturo was still on the Bulls, so cutting it close there, DraftKings. But sorry to interrupt, Joe. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. So I think starting lineup will matter the most. I think if Tremont Waters, I think it's going to be more likely like Delano Banton draws the start. But if Tremont Waters starts, I'll just take whoever's starting. But Banton would be my preferred option if he starts. And I think Svi, like people might be hesitant to pay 4-6 for Svi, but we've seen him in spots. When Gary Trent has been out, there was that spell earlier this season when I think Gary Trent and OG were both out, and he drew a start, and he played we've seen him in these spots before, alongside Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet, and these other guys, and he still plays well. He shoots the ball when he's on the court, so I think 4-6, where you can argue he's the best offensive player in their lineup. I think he's a great play. So the question that's being thrown around now is how many Raptors are too many, right? Of an 8-man rotation, like on this slate, there's a lot of value elsewhere. But I'd be fine with probably up to 4 Raptors.
Yeah, I think more than 4 is where you start to get crazy. And I think 5 is the limit, or 6?
5's the limit. 5's the limit on DK. But the thing is, if you run 5 Raptors, you almost then need a run back. And I don't know if I'm not going to pay
or an overtime.
What'd you say?
Or an overtime, right? We're going to get to Detroit, but Detroit's in a very similar situation tonight. So to have 5 Raptors all be optimal and Pistons.
And somehow you would need in that scenario, you would need 5 Raptors to absolutely probably go between 8 and 10x. And then you would need no more than 1 or 2 Detroit guys to go more than 6x. And that the odds of that happening, especially because they both have an equally few. All right, that's a weird way to put it. They both are lacking a ton of bodies, Detroit and Toronto. I would like to believe the players that Detroit has are a little better than the ones that Toronto has. You still have a Hamidou Diallo, you still have a Sadiq Bey, and they're more seasoned players. So I still like to bank on some of these guys from Detroit getting there more than I do Toronto. So I think 5 would be too much. I think I'd be most comfortable landing on 3 Raptors is what I'm building right now.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. Again, obviously, I'm not allowed to play, but that when I was messing around with some placeholders, I think no less than 3. 3 is the minimum rule I would set for Raptors plus Pistons in my lineups. I think if you have less than that, you're really just going too far out on a limb with how strong the value is from these two teams.
5 Raptors plus Pistons?
No, I'm saying no less than 3. So I want 3 at least Raptors plus Pistons.
Yeah. I agree.
And again, that's the absolute minimum for my lineups, just because of how strong these values are from these two teams. But on the other side, you mentioned you have so much interest in these Toronto guys. Run backs certainly not necessary on a slate like this. But if you were going to prioritize some Cleveland guys, does anybody stand out to you? Darius Garland's almost 10K on DraftKings.
I know. I can't do Darius Garland. I am like over the moon with John Morant today. So
Okay.
I don't think I can prioritize Darius Garland for $700 more. Kevin Love is enticing, especially with Jetty out now, but it doesn't matter how many guys are out. He's not going to get 30 minutes. If Isaac has, I may have missed it. Have we got news on Isaac Okoro? Because I know he's
still questionable, right? Okay. Coming back from the protocols.
Yeah, and I believe he actually tested positive because he's been out since, let me look, the 16th. So he probably tested positive. So if we get word he's in with no limitations, I think he would be my favorite. They're missing Evan Mobley at the 4, Jared Allen at the 5, and now Jetty at the 3-4. I think at 4-6, I'd much rather take a shot on Okoro than I would for Kevin Love at 6-1, knowing he's probably going to not surpass 26-ish minutes. Lauri Markkanen, I don't know. He's been disappointing from a production. Like, he's playing a lot of minutes, but his efficiency has been god awful.
Dude, horrendous.
Like, awful. We talk about when Sadiq Bey's bad all the time. Lauri Markkanen's been worse. I think Okoro, if he's in, would be my ideal one. But even if you run, say, 3 Raptors, I don't feel the need for a bring back because this Raptors value is just so strong where you don't need a close game for them to get there.
Well, so what if Okoro remains out? Do you then elevate your interest in a guy like Kevin Love, or are you putting maybe a Dean Wade? I mean, I don't think you have to. But just trying to turn over every rock here. Dean Wade.
No, I know. I don't think you Dean Wade can get 48 minutes in a game and he'll walk away with 9 fantasy points. I can't, knowing that is in the cards with all the other value on the slate. I just can't get there. I think Kevin Love is a fine tournament play. I just think there's a lot of insecurity regarding his minutes that, from a minute standpoint, I don't think there's any upside in Kevin Love. From a production standpoint, sure. But I would with so many players waltzing into near 40 minutes on this slate, Kevin Love is hard for me to prioritize.
I mean, there's just higher minutes and fantasy point ceilings, both at that price point, above that price point, and certainly below that price point today. So let's move on to Philadelphia and Washington. Philadelphia still struggling a little bit with the protocols. Drummond, Milton, Danny Green, all out. Anthony Tolliver, listed as a Philadelphia 76er, just signed with the Pelicans. I am not sure if he's available for the Pelicans or not today. We will get to them in the 7 p.m. games. So you've got Joel Embiid, center only on DK. His forward eligibility persisting on Superdraft, but 11.9K. Right there next to Jokic up top. We talked about some center values. We're going to get to some others. I think it's really tough to get to Embiid today, but maybe some good GPP leverage there. Talk to me about the Sixers.
I think Embiid is arguably the best GPP leverage on the slate. Sure. You have to think that Jokic is going to be by far and away the most popular spend up. If people are if he is one of the first stud in someone's lineup, there's a very, very good chance that the second person in someone's lineup is a Luka Garza, a Willie Hernan-Gomez, one of those cheap centers, a Chris Boucher. So the way you can get leverage, and it's not impossible to go both Jokic and Embiid because of the value on the slate. I think that's fine, but I think going straight Embiid over Joker gives you a massive amount of leverage. I just don't love that. I understand the ownership appeal of it, but to me, it's not really anything more than an ownership play. Embiid's going against the Washington front court that for the 3rd year in a row has been decimated by centers, and he has historically crushed this front court without Bradley Beal, without Raul Neto. It's a 3.5 point spread, but you would like to think that Philly can handle this team. I just like the prospects of Nikola Jokic against a Clippers team, which even without Paul George and Reggie Jackson, Denver isn't blowing anybody out. And if they are, it's because Jokic is going 35, 17, and 11. So I don't think Embiid has Jokic's ceiling on this slate. For me, Embiid is nothing more than if I'm running 10 lineups, say if I had 10 lineups, I'd probably have not 8 or 9 Jokic, and then the other 1 or 2 would be Embiid.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And some chatter going on in the FTN NBA Discord talking about kind of Herm, Dello saying, spending up at another position besides center is an interesting way to get some leverage because, Embiid and Jokic are going to stand out in terms of raw fantasy points on this slate, just a level above the rest.
I get it. Yeah, I get that logic, and I don't disagree with the logic as a whole, but I think specific to this slate, I think this would be different if hypothetically like the Bucks were on the slate and Giannis was on the slate, or like a LeBron without Anthony Davis was on the slate, like where you can potentially get that ceiling at another position. There are spend ups at other positions on this slate. You have Sabonis if he's in, Zach LaVine without Lonzo Ball now, Brandon Ingram at night. None of these guys have the ceiling that Embiid and Jokic do, and that's where my issue comes. Sure. If there was someone at a different position like a Steph or a Luka or Giannis, yeah, I'd take that shot, but I am just not comfortable with it on this slate.
Yeah, and Dello, saying it's true today. Not a lot of other places to spend up, but certainly those places where we can get different, maybe a Brandon Ingram, John Morant, just to kind of preview some of those guys we'll touch on, certainly strong and will not be overlooked. Outside of Embiid here on the Sixers, Joe, you've got Tobias Harris over 9K on DraftKings, 6.6 and 6.8, Maxey and Seth Curry, respectively. Then you're dropping down to the Tybulls, the Furkan Korkmazes of the world, Georges Niang back for this team. Any of those spots a place to get different for you? Is it just kind of Embiid and move on for the Sixers?
I don't know what the hell they're doing pricing Tobias Harris where he is.
Yeah.
He's not a 9K plus player, let alone a max contract player. But I actually think Tobias for 7-1 on FanDuel is a fine play. When he's in this price range, he typically slate in and slate out comes in as one of the most popular plays on the slate, which is why I don't want to play him today, because when Embiid's in, like, how often are we really getting that 50 burger from Tobias Harris? Very, very rare. We rarely get that. Whereas we're getting more at the ceiling, quote unquote, that we're getting from Tobias Harris with Embiid is like a 40 to 45 at 7-1. I would rather play Derek White for $400 more at a different position than I would Tobias Harris today. I'd rather get up to Brandon Ingram for $1,600 more because it's so easy to do so. On DraftKings, I can't really play Tyrese Maxey today at 6.6 when there's Derek White and Spencer Dinwiddie for $100 less. I just don't think any of these guys are ones that I want to prioritize on this slate.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also think, man, like Seth Curry and Tyrese Maxey are also too expensive with Tobias and Joel Embiid in there, like compared to like similar to Tobias Harris, I guess I should say. I think those guys kind of got ticked up a little bit when there was a potential Embiid rest on the back end of a back-to-back a couple slates ago, and they just haven't come down yet. So, I mean, looking across the ball here, no Bradley Beal in the protocols alongside KCP. Raul Neto just got put in the protocols as well. We did just get starters for the Cavs: Garland, Rubio, Wade, Markkanen, and Love. Tyler Hero was ejected in the early game this afternoon.
That's my boy.
And I think
Tyler Hero, shout out Milwaukee.
Donovan Mitchell out the next 2 games, doesn't pertain to this slate. Excuse me while
You're fine.
This one. Okay. Back to Washington here again. Like I said, Raul Neto out of the protocol. So we've got Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyle Kuzma leading the way salary-wise. Then you drop down to the Harrell and Gafford roulette. Denny Avdia priced up, and with Raul Neto out, Corey Kispert will get another start alongside Aaron Holiday. Aaron Holiday, who had 28 minutes and was very productive in the game against the Knicks 2 nights before Christmas. But, Joe, we talked about Spencer Dinwiddie on Wednesday's slate. He went off once again, continuing the trend of 50-plus DraftKings points with no Bradley Beal in the lineup. I guess one of those 4 games, 49 and a quarter, excuse me. So didn't quite crack 50 in that one. But sitting at 6.5, I think that price tag is going to keep the masses off of Spencer Dinwiddie. Tougher matchup here against Philadelphia. Those 4 games without Beal so far: Knicks, Pelicans, Magic, Pacers. So tougher matchup, price is up, but are you still getting to Spencer Dinwiddie, especially in tournaments?
Spencer Dinwiddie's 4.6 on FanDuel.
He didn't move?
No, did not move.
Oh my God, come on.
Knowing that Bradley Beal was in the protocols.
Yeah.
I can't get off of Spencer Dinwiddie on fan. In no world am I getting off him in one lineup. And honestly, right where I'm at right now for 6.5 on DraftKings, like I don't want to get away from it either, especially knowing that 6.5 is a price that he can go 8x on, and he's shown that in this scenario, and nobody's gonna play him today.
Sure.
So because of that, it's like, okay, I almost think he's a stronger play today than he was on the previous slate. So I don't see any reason not to play Spencer Dinwiddie. I think the only reason I'm not getting to, they're talking in chat right now about how Delano Banton is listed as out on FanDuel. One, he's a power forward on FanDuel, which I think is just fucking ridiculous. That makes no sense. But one of the reasons I'm not getting to some of this, this Toronto value, like a Utah or a Svi or someone, is because Spencer Dinwiddie is so cheap. Like if I'm going 1-for-1 between Svi Mikhailiuk and Spencer Dinwiddie, it's going to be Dinwiddie. I don't care if Toronto has 8 guys. So I think he's a strong play on both sides. Someone asked me how I prioritize Derek White, John Morant, and Spencer Dinwiddie. A little bit of a price discrepancy. I believe that's FanDuel, J-Win, if that's what you're talking about. Out of priority, I think I go Dinwiddie, White, Morant. But as of right now, I want to make sure I have 2 of those 3 in my lineup. Right now, those 2 are actually Morant and Dinwiddie on FanDuel.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And we'll get to John Morant right now, unless you have anything else to break down here with the Wizards. I think it's not crazy, in my opinion, Joe, if you played a Kyle Kuzma, if you wanted to go Trez Harrell or Daniel Gafford, if you're running 150 lineups, certainly in my 20 lineups, I would not get to any of those guys. Kuzma would be my favorite out of the 3, but paying 6.9, while a nice price, doesn't feel great today. And Aaron Holiday, you could, but like he's not getting into my lineups over the Raptors or Detroit guys. And I think there's enough values on those 2 teams and a few here and there throughout the rest of the slate where I can rotate enough combinations of guys that I feel are stronger and still not get to any Aaron Holiday or Corey Kispert.
Yeah,
anything different for you there?
No, not at all. And I do like. I mean, it's Dinwiddie and Kuzma for me. Like these guys, and it's a lot of it is because of relative to the other value on the slate. They just do not project as well. The Kisperts and the Holidays of the world, like you said. I do want to circle back for 30 seconds. Kevin Love just ruled as the starter for Cleveland. That still doesn't change my sentiment a ton on him. I think he ticks up a bit, but I still think it's more likely than not that he gets like 28, 29 minutes and he does 33, 34. I still prefer, like you said in chat, I still prefer Sadiq Bey to Kevin Love.
Yeah, I think what it does is it really ticks Dean Wade completely out of play if he wasn't already for you coming off the bench now. Doesn't really move Kevin Love from where I had him in the ranks as an 8 at that 6-1 price tag. Moving to Memphis at Sacramento, the third of these games going off at lock. Dylan Brooks, DeAnthony Melton added to the COVID protocols for this Memphis team earlier, this afternoon. Brandon Clark has been ruled in after not playing since the 2nd of this month. His last game was actually that 73-point victory over the Thunder. Similar matchup here. Team's a little bit better, but the Kings still getting up and down and giving up points at nearly every position. John Morant sitting at 9K on DraftKings, and now with no Brooks, no Melton, you're going to have some extra usage going to Ja, going to Triple J, Desmond Bane, maybe even Tyus Jones, who's back in there now for this team. I guess you could include slow-mo Kyle Anderson also on that list. Joe, John Morant for me at 9K against this Kings team is one of my favorite ways to spend salary on DraftKings today. How are you approaching Ja?
Same exact way you are. At the end of the day, like aside from Jokic, you have to spend your salary somewhere. It just 8-8 on FanDuel, 9K on DraftKings. Like you said, Dylan Brooks opens up 15 to 20 shots a game. DeAnthony Melton opens up. For Morant, I'd probably say 3-ish, 2 to 3 extra minutes. But that can be an extra 3 to 5 fantasy points. So John Morant is one of my, like probably in terms of spend ups, my second favorite behind Jokic. And I don't think the ownership will get there. So I absolutely love John Morant on this slate. Particularly, like you said, Kings are bleeding production everywhere. They have, ever since Alvin Gentry took over, I think I wrote it up this morning. I believe they are 5th in the league in pace right now. I believe they were 12th when he took over the team. So they have just started blazing the speed, and he said he wants to get them over 100 possessions per game. This is the quite literally the perfect environment for John. I think John Morant could be like the slate breaking player of the day.
Yeah, and our tune has certainly changed. At least my tune has changed from the beginning of the season, where I was fading John Morant and running away from 9K plus Morant, and now all about him on this slate in this matchup. Some Houston news coming in for tomorrow. Garrison Matthews into the protocols. We may see the return of Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green managing his injuries questionable. So anybody else from this Memphis team, everybody else, in my opinion, still kind of priced for Ja to be out. So like Tyus Jones, Kyle Anderson don't really stick out to me. Neither does Desmond Bane. I think Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. would be my secondary option from the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I don't hate Bane at 6K. I think I prefer to play him in like a cash game environment. Isaac Okoro is out, by the way.
Gotcha.
So I think Triple J would probably be mine. I don't, if you get to Desmond Bane, I'm not going to argue with you, but it's really just John Morant for me. And assuming we're flipping to the Sacramento side, I mean, do you really have much interest in these guys or not? Like, they're still their prices if everyone's still out, and that's my issue.
Yeah, I think we can make quick work of Sacramento with Terrence Davis back, Marvin Bagley back. Who else came back? De'Aaron Fox. That is the biggest one there.
They all also have no minutes restrictions too. That came out as well, which is the biggest thing.
I did think it was kind of interesting that Chimezie Metu did hold his spot at the 4 there in the starting lineup. But yeah, man, a lot of these guys also not multi-position eligible. Fox, point guard only. Metu and Bagley, power forward only. Holmes, Tristan Thompson, center only. So I really don't have interest here. Like, if I'm going to roster one of these Kings players, it's either Richaun Holmes at 5'8" or De'Aaron Fox at 8'1" for me, but I don't feel the need to go to De'Aaron Fox in his first game back. Minutes limit or not. Like, he's been out in the protocols, and I just don't like. He wasn't doing great beforehand. He's still priced the same as before he went into the protocols. So I just don't have a ton of interest there. I think it would be Richaun Holmes as my priority if I had to play a guy from the Kings team.
Yeah, it would be Richaun Holmes for me. So he's 5'8" on DraftKings.
Yeah, center only. That's why it's tough.
Yeah, that's fair. So he's 6'1" on FanDuel, which is where my intrigue was. Obviously, but he also on FanDuel has power forward eligibility.
Okay.
So I think Richaun Holmes would be my play here because he's underpriced for any circumstance. And we know his permanent upside. So I think that it would just be Richaun Holmes. Everyone else is you can't play Tyrese Halliburton right now or any of these other guys.
Just typing to a couple of our friends in chat there. And Javi bringing up how much Detroit exposure he has in a lineup, talking about maybe having some bring back. So as we shift to the 7 p.m. games, we will go from, what did I miss?
We got Raptors starters. DJ Wilson starting.
Banton, Svi, Yuta Watanabe, Chris Boucher, and DJ Wilson, former Milwaukee Buck, former Houston Rocket, shout out Cody and his mom. Half an hour until main slate lock here, and DJ Wilson getting the start. So maybe a few rankings updates coming in as we go here, but let's talk Pistons at Spurs.
Only though?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunate.
All right. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, all good. We got to talk through every option that we can possibly think of here. So as we shift to a game where the Spurs are unfortunately double-digit favorites against, I got to be honest, Joe, I don't know the Detroit G League affiliate, but that is essentially what we are watching here from the Pistons, the available Pistons. I believe there are 9 of them: Sadiq Bey, Hamidou Diallo, Frank Jackson, Check Diallo, 2 Diallos for the price of 1 here, essentially. Jamarco Pickett, Luka Garza getting the start at center, Cassius Stanley, former dunk contest participant, Derek Walton Jr., former EuroLeague guy, former Miami Heat player, so shout out our boy Javi there. Derek Walton getting the start at the 1, and then you can add in Isaiah Livers and what's the guy's name again? Davidas Savitas? Is that his name? All I know is that's the guy that only has an NBA contract because his agent reps some guys, I think, for the Pistons and got him the little sweetheart deal. So I don't expect much out of Servetus. I really don't think he's an NBA caliber player. So when we look at this team, very similar here to Toronto. We do have Saddiq Bey at 7.5 on DraftKings, but then everybody else 5.6 and below. What are your priorities here? Because again, we're going to like the majority of these guys at their prices, but what's your priorities?
Depends site to site. Both sites, I think Hamidou Diallo is a staple in my lineups.
Mm-hmm.
On FanDuel, Saddiq Bey is 5.6, and that's just stupid. Like, I don't understand that price. So for nearly $2,000 less than you're getting him on DraftKings, I still think I'd be okay with 7.5 for Saddiq Bey on DraftKings. So 5.6 is it's going to be very chalky, but one of my favorite plays. Luka Garza is someone I'm really, really hit or miss on right now because I'm trying to figure out how I prioritize now him, DJ Wilson, and Sweet Dick Willie Hernangomez. On FanDuel, it's different where both Hernangomez and DJ Wilson have power forward eligibility, but on DraftKings, assuming you're playing Jokic, you can only pick one of these guys. So as of right now, my lean is still Hernangomez, who still posted, I think he was about 6 or 6.5x last slate while going 1 of 11 from the field. He is my lean even for an elevated price, but I think I would still I think at that point I would go now with DJ Wilson over Luka Garza, because I do worry about Garza against Jakob Poeltl quite a bit.
Yeah, man, you have to worry about Luka Garza in any matchup, right?
Right. Well, the thing is on both ends of the court now, because like Poeltl, I think he's a phenomenal defender, and dear Lord, Garza on the defensive end isn't there. Like he couldn't guard anyone in college, let alone in Stefano from the couch just asked us Garza or Wilson. If he were tuning in, he would hear the answer right now. But it's DJ Wilson for me on this slate.
HB Cards letting me know that apparently Isaiah Livers is out, so I apologize for getting that wrong. I hadn't scrolled back to that Pistons tweet yet. So Isaiah Livers out for this Pistons team. Again, only 9 available bodies. Are we sure about that?
Wait. Livers is out? I'm not seeing...
Some scrolling music, please, Thomas.
I'm not seeing him listed as out. I see him... He was listed as out for Thursday.
But he's not now. He's out. He's out.
Yeah,
so,
he is.
Apologies for the delay. All right. Outside of that center discussion, how do you feel about Saddiq Bey at that 7.5 price tag?
Hold on. Sorry. Hobby says I already have Ingram, Willie, or Frank. I don't think Ingram deters from Willie Hernangomez.
No.
I'm kind of hit or miss on that. Oh, John Conchar drawing the start. I'm kind of hit or miss on Saddiq Bey at 7.5 because we know he has the ceiling to get there and more at this price. But we also know a lot can go wrong for Saddiq Bey in a very short amount of time. Where I think on FanDuel, I want to eat it at 5.6, eat the chalk, but he's not going to be chalky on DraftKings, which I think is a perk. But if you're telling me, like, position aside, for $1,000 less, I can get one or both of Derek White, Spencer Dinwiddie. I think those are dollars better spent than 7.5 for Saddiq Bey, where I'd take those forward spots and just go like a Diallo, a Boucher, and guys down a little bit lower who I do still think have a bit more security relative to their salaries. Like 7.5 does scare me. I have some trepidations at that price.
I also think it's I agree with that, but I do think it's an interesting way to spend $7.5K on DraftKings tonight for a guy who should play 40 plus minutes. Double upside for sure. Going to launch a ton of threes, almost 50%, 49% of his attempts this year coming from beyond the arc and shooting only 31%. But I think we both agree that Saddiq Bey can shoot a little bit better, and the Spurs will give it up from deep. Let's flip to the Spurs side because my guy, DeJounte Murray, put into the health and safety protocols, the first of the Spurs in recent memory to go into the protocol. So hopefully we're not seeing, I guess it would be good for the tank, right, Joe? If we saw like a Trey Jones, Jock Landale starting lineup. Give me some Josh Primo for 10 days or something like that. I'll take it.
It could be Trey Jones, right?
Yeah, why not both, right? So
Greg Popovich, that's why.
Yeah. We got some NFL news coming in, so I will ignore that for the time being. Derek White at 6'5", Jakob Poeltl 6'4", and Keldon Johnson, who's been producing pretty well lately, but I think, not somewhere that I'm going to just run to due to DeJounte being out. It's really Derek White for me. And then Lonnie Walker and Devin Vassell, I think, are the two guys that are really going to pick up some extra time here. Doesn't do much for me with Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott, strictly a wing or stretch four. And, you mentioned Jakob Poeltl when we were talking about Luka Garza. Jakob Poeltl is in a pretty darn good matchup today against Luka and the rest of these, G League Pistons. So any priorities for you from the Spurs? Like I would mix in, I think, Derek White, and then maybe like in my 20, I would get 5 to 10% of a Vassell or a Lonnie Walker, but it's really Derek White for me as my priority here.
Derek White is a priority for me on both sides. He's more of a priority on DraftKings given his 6.5 relative to 7.5 price tag, and he's only point guard eligible on FanDuel, which makes it tough when you have Ja Morant, Spencer Dinwiddie, a Darius Garland, only 7.3 over there. So there are a lot of options here that make it harder to get to a Derek White. But I think on DraftKings combo guard, he's one of my favorite plays on the slate. I think after Derek White, I think my next favorite would be Jakob Poeltl, because I think I would much rather spend on the value from these aforementioned teams than I would on a Lonnie Walker or Devin Vassell, because they still have some wing depth that they can toy with. Or Jakob Poeltl, if we're buying into like fading Luka Garza because this matchup on both ends of the court, then you almost have to by default have a lot of interest in Jakob Poeltl if you expect him to be so effective against Luka Garza. So I think he is a very interesting way to play the center position because nobody is going to get there. So for that reason, if you're multi-entering, if I had 5 lineups, I definitely have one Jakob Poeltl. And I would probably fade one of the value centers before I fade Jokic for Poeltl.
Okay. I think I would get away, and Joe, we'll count this as the one time I disagree with you, because I know that's becoming behind the scenes a nice little running joke that we are very much in lockstep. I don't think I would get to Poeltl, the Turtle, Jake Puddle, Jakob Poeltl. I don't think I would get to him. Maybe I would have 1 or 2 in 20 lineups. But he just can't. He wouldn't make it for me on DraftKings. Specifically there. So let's go ahead. We'll pick up the pace a little bit, 20 minutes and some change, 3 games to go. The other game going off here at 7, New Orleans visiting the lowly Oklahoma City Thunder. I guess maybe doing a disservice to the Thunder there. The Pelicans are a lowly team as it stands now too. But you've got Jonas Valanciunas remaining out, non-COVID illness, obviously Zion. The jokes continue about him. I saw some Mountain Dew jokes yesterday. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, his cousin across the ball in this game, won't get to match up against Shea. He is also in the protocols. We've got Sweet Doc, Willie Hernan-Gomez getting the start here. Got 32 minutes against Orlando on the 23rd, 1 for 11, still 24.5 DK points. So he stands out, especially against this OKC front court that outside of an old Derek Favors does not have much in the way of bodies to slow him down. Brandon Ingram, 9'8", and a couple guys in between. How are you breaking down the Pelicans?
Sweet Dick is an interesting play today because I don't think he's going to be overwhelmingly chalky, particularly on DraftKings. I like him a lot more on FanDuel because you can slot him into a power forward spot. I think he's a very, very strong play on both sides, though sub 5K. Brandon Ingram is one of my favorites. I think behind Jokic and Ja Morant, Brandon Ingram might be my favorite spend up. He's only 8.7 on FanDuel. That is a really, really nice price. And even with how bad this Oklahoma City team is, this Pelicans team is not blowing anybody out. They're only favored by 2. So Brandon Ingram is my favorite small forward on FanDuel and a very good source of spending your salary on DraftKings. Just not a priority over there like he is for me on FanDuel.
Sure. How about the Thunder? Like, I think the Thunder is a pretty quick rundown here. I think it's fine if you want to spend 8-9 on Shea kind of as a Ja Morant pivot there. Again, if you're running multiple lineups, you're going to have a lot, at least in the way I played mine or would play mine in the past. I would have a lot of like 2v2s, 1v1s, even some 3v3s on a slate like this. And that would be a good 1v1 for me if I like the rest of my lineup a lot. Just slot in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander for Ja Morant, $100 cheaper. There you got Josh Giddey, 7.7, Lou Dort, 5.7. Probably going to see another JRE start at 3-4, but none of those guys priorities for me. I think it's kind of SGA and move on, in my opinion, Joe.
Yeah, that's how it is for me. It's hard with SGA in. It's really hard to love Lou Dort with these other options on this slate. JRE is a source of salary relief in the front court that I go to on slates where there's not any other source of salary relief in the front court, which is the antithesis of what we have today. Nice use of the word there. It's just SGA for me today. I feel like I expand my vocabulary when I stream with you so often, so I appreciate that.
It's osmosis from Eddie to me to you.
Yes.
And then kind of from like Eddie to me to you, patting ourselves on the back for using big words. It goes around here.
The egos are coming out
now. Jay Wynn chiming in asking if Yuta Watanabe is okay on FanDuel. Can you tell me his price over there? I know you're the FanDuel guy.
Yeah, I actually have FanDuel up right now. 4-4 phenomenal play.
Yeah.
My only issue is Svi Mikhailuk is 3-5. And Hamidou Diallo is 4-8. So if I'm choosing one between those three, it is Diallo for me. But I think of those three, Utah is probably my least favorite. I would probably go Hamidou, Svi, and then
sure.
Utah. But
he's plenty strong at 4-4 there.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But like you said, you've got Svi, min price, also Tremont Waters, DJ Wilson, min price there. So yeah, it's just a grab bag of value really on every site. Anything else? I know I kind of went away from the Pelicans quickly there. Anything else from New Orleans?
No, it's really Brandon Ingram and Willie. And right now, obviously single entry player. I have one lineup on each side. I only have Brandon Ingram. I don't have any Hernangomez right now. That will change, as weird as it sounds, pending Pacers news, because I'm debating 2 3v3s. But as of now, just Brandon Ingram, sweet dick as second priority.
You can play Josh Hart, especially if there's like a 2-game 7:00 turbo slate. That's an easy way to spend some salary on a guy with a high floor, double-double, and somewhat triple-double upside, right? We haven't seen it yet, but we're waiting on it. The assist, the toughest part for a guy like Josh Hart, but the minutes are just astronomical right now, averaging near 40 over his last 3 games. I worry a little bit about the efficiency in the sense that he's been too good. 7 of 10, 7 of 10, 5 of 10, 6 of 8 in 4 of his last 5. But the floor is undeniable for Josh Hart. So more of a target for me on a turbo or showdown scenario, but certainly in play at 7K on this slate, particularly. The one game going off at 8, the Indiana Pacers visiting the Chicago Bulls. Both teams hoping to get more healthy as we go throughout this week. On the Pacers side, we've got questionable Domantas Sabonis, questionable Malcolm Brogdon, and a questionable tag on Jeremy Lamb, wrist soreness for Lamb there. So we've got Domantas Sabonis in a price tier of his own, 10-5. Kerris Levert up to 8-8 after the massive ownership, and for good reason, that we saw with both Brogdon and Sabonis out last time. Almost 60 DK points for Kerris Levert. He is a clear priority on this slate if those two guys are out, but the fact that we won't get this news probably until, maybe, I think if we're lucky, close to that 7 p.m. Eastern lock, but it could very well come after that where we don't have a ton of flexibility. So how are you breaking down the Pacers, Joe? And have you played around at all with flexibility to get a Kerris Levert in if those guys are out?
Yeah, I honestly think the flexibility is more difficult on DraftKings because some of these guys are priced a lot easier to fit in the first couple games. And Kerris Levert on FanDuel is still only 6'6". So Kerris Levert right now, I don't think we're gonna get this news in the next 15 minutes. But if you have enough to move around when that news comes out, you are smashing Kerris Levert into your lineup. I don't there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it for me. I just don't know if we will. If I do you have a pulse on Brogdon? I think it's his Achilles or Achilles, I believe.
Is the Achilles sore? I mean, he's had all kinds of. I mean,
he's always had these lower body injuries every year, soft tissue injuries that.
Well, I know you're familiar with it, Joe, but I've always heard that his medicals before the draft were some of the worst that GMs had ever seen. And obviously going to your Bucks prior to this stint with the Pacers, the Achilles, I think, sore. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's a bad idea, especially if you have multiple lineups, to slot in Kerris Levert at 8-8 into a lineup or two, or however many you feel, because obviously if those guys are out, he's going to profile as one of the best ways to spend your salary. And just, have a contingency plan, have a 1v1 or a 2v2 that you can swap out. Obviously we'll get to the late night hammer with the Clippers, who are very short-handed. Maybe you can have a nice 2v2 with that, with slot in Kerris at first. And if those guys are in, make a little swappity-do, work it out. If anybody's got questions, let us know.
Swappity-do.
Hey, I got to expand the vocabulary, Joe.
Yeah, that's fair. That's an interesting expansion, but yeah, we'll take it. That's the replacement player expansion of your vocabulary.
Yeah, there you go.
I do one note on Kerris Levert. If you are scared of a switch, on FanDuel particularly, I think at 6'6", he's still playable enough if Brogdon is in, where like you don't have to feel awful and like your lineup is shit if Brogdon is ruled in of Levert. I think at 6'6", he's a very low risk play in general.
Yeah.
So as I'm building right now, I'm building and just taking the shot, hoping that that Brogdon's out, but I'm not going to be pissed off if he's in and I have a 6'6" Kerris Levert. So that's how I'm approaching the Pacers. Sabonis being out would not make me very interested in Miles Turner just because of all the other center options on this slate. I think for the same reason, like if he's out, like I'm not going to rush to an O'Shea Brissett if he's starting. I'm not going to rush to a Justin Holiday just because of their strong value elsewhere. Indiana is still far deeper than 40% of teams on this slate. So,
yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. I want to shout out FTN, producer Thomas, Joe, everybody watching. Thank you for taking me away from this ass whooping the Kansas City Chiefs are putting on my Steelers currently. We go to the Chicago side of this game, Joe. Lonzo Ball into the COVID protocols.
Yep.
Derek Jones Jr. remains out for this team. Alex Caruso reevaluated in about 5 to 7 days from now. Foot sprain. You've got Zach LaVine back for this Bulls team. 10-2 on DraftKings, 9-6 for my guy DeMar DeRozan, and 9-5 for Nikola Vucevic at the very stacked center position. You're going to have Kobe White popping in projections around the industry with Lonzo and Caruso out. Ayo Dosunmu also back at 4K. So looking at this team, decent matchup fantasy-wise, but it's kind of all or nothing price-wise and projection-wise. Can you prioritize any of these guys? I think in multiple lineups, we have to have some interest here, but how would you rank those guys?
I don't know if I can prioritize any of these guys if I'm being fully transparent. Like, I think DeMar DeRozan at 8-9 is interesting on FanDuel.
Mm-hmm.
Even more so, I think Zach LaVine at 8-6 is very, very appealing. I just think for $300 more, the security that DeMar has been back for 2 games now makes me a little I feel a little better about. But I can't I understand the Kobe White love. I just can't prioritize. It's a cop out, but I keep coming back to the fact that just relative to the other value on the slate, just doesn't project as well. Especially Kobe White goes in the starting lineup. People want to rush there. So be it. You're playing alongside Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, and DeMar DeRozan. Your ceiling is going to be incredibly capped. So I'm okay fading the Bulls as a whole. One of my placeholders on FanDuel has DeMar DeRozan right now just as a pivot, a 3v3 pivot off of Kerris Levert if I want to do it. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Just wanted to get to this question from my guy, Steelers fan, also ignoring our favorite football team in favor of some NBA DFS. So appreciate you being with us, buddy. Cassius Stanley, DJ Wilson, and Dinwiddie, or Sweet Dick Willie. He said Frankie Smokes. I think he means Frank Jackson. Frankie Smokes, Frank Ntilikina. But Frank Jackson, Sweet Dick Willie, and Delano Banton. It's the second side for me, and it's not particularly close. I don't like the Cassius Stanley, DJ Wilson near as much as Frank Jackson and Delano.
It's Cassius Stanley is really the odd one out for me. So I think I lean too. I do love Dinwiddie though on this slate, as you guys obviously know.
Absolutely. For the Bulls side, just to close it out, I think in tournaments, Joe, I would spend up the extra $600 for Zach LaVine practiced on Thursday. So I would assume he's been getting some workouts in, getting his conditioning back. And I think will be lower owned because he's the guy that is more recently returning to this team, this being his first game since the 12th of this month. I certainly would have Nick Vucevic third, given the positional obligations and opportunity cost of rostering a guy like him at center. Anything else from this game? Are you ready for the hammer?
Let's hammer it home.
Denver at the Clippers. Pretty simple for me on this Denver side. It's Jokic. I have no issue locking him. I think I would do that if I was running 20 today. I would just go ahead and eat that chalk and try to rotate my favorite value combinations around him. The rest of this team, not enticing to me. Obviously, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. all out, or both out. Marcus Howard, PJ Dozier, Bol also out for this team. I believe JaMychal Green, questionable, listed probable, with the ankle, and Aaron Gordon also probable with a hamstring. Even if those guys are out, I don't like it. Outside of the showdown scenario, I don't have any interest in anybody but Jokic from this team.
You can't. I mean, you really can't. Like, I mean, again, relative, especially with like if this were even on a slate without this value, I still wouldn't, because we've seen this scenario before. We've seen Aaron Gordon out. We've seen JaMychal Green out. We've seen Jeff Green out. Like, nobody does anything besides Nikola Jokic on this team worthwhile for your fantasy lineup. If you're looking for value in this game, just go to the other side of the ball.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree 100%. Shocker. Shorthanded Clippers. No Paul George. No Kawhi Leonard. No Reggie Jackson. No best friend Marcus Morris Sr. No Isaiah Hartenstein. No Jay Scrubb in the COVID protocols, rounding out the injury report for the Clippers. I guess also Jason Preston, the rookie guard, still yet to make his season debut. So now we've got Eric Bledsoe as the most expensive Clipper, giving Joe Metz nightmares, followed by Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard, Ivica Zubac, Nick Batum. We'll probably see a good amount of Justice Winslow, maybe BJ Boston here, and some Serge Ibaka. How are you prioritizing these Clippers? Because I think if you're running multiple lineups, you've got to have exposure here.
I've got Eric Bledsoe in my single entry right now.
Yeah.
And I don't love it just because of my little vendetta that's at this point just so played out.
Sure.
But at 5'8", he's going to play 35 plus minutes. Paul George being out obviously helps, but no Reggie Jackson. They're not going to run Luke Kennard at point. They're not going to run Terrence Mann at point. Terrence Mann has too much length on the wing, especially if an Aaron. They could. But in terms of who is going to start at point guard, it's going to be Eric Bledsoe. I think 5'8" is a great price because of the uptick in volume that he's going to see. And he has been a player that we've seen with some glaring inefficiencies, but at the end of the day, he has been able to deliver from the standpoint of his peripherals as well. He had 15 last game. And he, if with this scenario, I'm not going to say he can flirt with a triple-double, but if he has a massive outlier, his massive outlier is a triple-double. So I like Bledsoe quite a bit, especially at the ownership coming in a lot lower than I had originally looked at going into the slate with so much opening up. So Bledsoe, number one priority. If you're looking at like just priority ranks after that, it'd be Luke Kennard, then Terrence Mann, and then Serge Ibaka. But I'm almost tempted to go Serge Ibaka over Terrence Mann.
Sure, I don't think I can get to Serge tonight with all the other value.
I get it, dude. There's just something about whenever I see Serge Ibaka with expanded opportunity, my mouth just like waters. And because you know what he can do.
Yeah.
He just hasn't done it yet.
Well, and the fact that he's now got the power forward eligibility over there on DraftKings makes him more viable there. Bledsoe, my favorite here. And then certainly, as is tradition with me, Terrence Mann over Luke Kennard for $100 more. Not a huge fan of Luke Kennard, but he projects fine at his 5'6". There's just so many other options, both above and below him, that I would rather get to tonight. Again, different story on the showdown slate. That'll do it. We've got 4 minutes to go until main slate lock here. We'll answer questions from now until then, but as we let the questions kind of build up in chat, if anybody's catching us on this NFL Sunday and not a subscriber here at FTN Daily, it's fine that you've been freeloading to this point, just catching the shows, catching a little, here's a ranking snippet here, maybe a free bet from Joe Metz or somebody else who's on the stream. But come give us a try, even just 1 month. Come check it out. We've got a lot of stuff to offer here with the NBA package. We've got a state-of-the-art optimizer. It covers every slate every day with proprietary player and ownership projections from our guy, Kyle Murray, and our buddy Alex Blicko helping out Kyle as well. All kinds of tools, the NBA on-off splits, the advanced DVP tool. It's one of my favorite, and our buddy Stefano's baby. I don't know how he made such a cool NBA tool while sleeping on the couch 23 hours a day. The infamous FTN Daily NBA Premium Discord chat, where we are answering questions all the way up to lock throughout the slate, and then getting into some various, there's various debauchery going on in there after dark, Joe. You also get rankings from Fast Eddie Fear and myself, and all that stuff is every single day. You can get all that in the NBA package for $49.99 per month, but you can use that code scrolling right below me right now, FTN TV, and that's going to get you 15% off every single month of your subscription. Every single month means all the way through the end of the NBA Finals, so 15% off every month through the end of the season. To repeat, that promo code is FTN TV, gets you 15% off. And when you do join, get in the Discord, tag Joe, tag myself, let us know you're here because we would love to have you. With that, Joe, we got the shills out of the way, and we will head to the Discord for questions. I see Steelers fan talking to me about Steelers playoff hopes. We'll get to that after lock. Jaywin asking Derek White or Spencer Dinwiddie. It is Dinwiddie for me.
Yep, Dinwiddie.
DFS Dan chiming in saying Love and Derek White or Sweet Dick Willie and John Morant. And it is very much the second one for me.
Yeah, it's the second one for me. And I just asked a similar question in the DMs. It was Eric Bledsoe and Kevin Love on FanDuel, or Sweet Dick and Kerris Levert, taking the chance, obviously, that Levert would have brought in. I'm still Levert and Sweet Dick over Kevin Love and Eric Bledsoe. Like, Levert at 6'6", again, is still a very manageable price. That's his price on a normal slate anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Do you agree with, like, would you go Sweet Dick and Kerris Levert, or would you go Bledsoe and Love?
Tournaments, I'm going the Levert side. Absolutely. Yeah, the upside's just too high on a slate where a lot of the ownership is going to be really concentrated. And it would, how high would Kerris Levert be owned if we had that news right now?
80 at 6'6", 80% on FanDuel, not even close.
Yeah. And extremely elevated on DraftKings and Superdraft as well. Our sponsor, Superdraft, 1.4x for Kerris Levert. Triple H asking, any Josh Hart love on FanDuel at 6,700?
Yeah, I don't hate it. If you are uncomfortable, like I said, with that Kerris Levert price, if you don't get that news, the one benefit is that if we get that news before the Pelicans game, and you can move some stuff around, like I know they're both small forward eligible, you can just go from Kerris to Josh Hart if you want. I still prefer Kerris in a vacuum over Hart, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense to me. Delo saying if the newcomers don't tag Easy B, they'll never get the beans. I don't disagree. You get in the FTN NBA daily Discord. Make sure you tag Easy B. Let him know you're here so he can bless you with some beans. Under a minute here until this slate locks. 3 of the 7 games going off right here at 6 p.m. Eastern. Dorian Finney-Smith not on the injury report for tomorrow. So we'll get some of those Mavericks back. Maybe we see Luka come back tomorrow. Who knows?
My dynasty team: Luka, John Collins, Bradley Beal, Kevin Porter Jr., Tim Hardaway Jr. All these guys just in protocol. It's so bad. I could use Luka very badly.
Yeah, it's tough for most fantasy basketball, certainly the season-long with dynasty teams. It's not so tough for my season-long team this week, Joe.
Fair. Well, I think that has more to do with your opponent.
Taking on Joe Metz in the listener
I have
league.
decided to sit the season out in solidarity with my guys.
That's what he says now. 9-0. The sweep this week. Getting me back on track in the listener league.
Speaking of an absolute dumpster fire, if Marshall Gershon is watching, my fellow operations manager at FTN, I'm up by 40 in the semifinals of our staff league right now. So, Zach, I'm coming for your neck.
Well, yeah, I will very much enjoy taking you out in the final next week. As I said in the draft, when I made this pick on the turn, Superflex League, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams stack carrying me so far.
Well, do you not know the double stacks that I have? I have Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. See ya.
Whatever. Dude, Trevor Lawrence, Jamal Williams, Jeff Wilson coming for your ass. I think it's that
Trevor Lawrence play that puts you over the top, to be honest.
I am, though, Joe, projected to lose by 0.9 at the moment. We've had some developments here. Justin Jackson being started against me today. Less than ideal. A.J. Brown going off on Thursday as well. Still Dak and the Cowboys defense to come for Peaches himself. So I'm holding on by a thread.
Okay.
I hope we do get to have this matchup.
What the? Sorry, Tyreek Hill's one catch at halftime, and they're up 23-0 with no Travis Kelce. What the fuck, man?
And that's the Steelers giveth and the Steelers taketh away. Can't have it all.
Give you that.
Downloading the ownership here,
cool.
just so we can take a peek before we get out of here. I will subject myself to this halftime, or this second half, I should say, that is hopefully a little bit more rosy for the black and gold than it was in the first half. I need some Deontay Johnson points.
So do I. Well, if there's a script that sets up perfectly for him, this is the one. So
yeah,
I need it as well. We'll see how it goes. I need some. So on FanDuel, I ran one Toronto Raptor, and I'm terrified. But with how low like someone like a Spencer Dinwiddie was and Sadiq Bey, it's like I just couldn't do it. But hey, my night might end very early on FanDuel. Who knows?
We'll find out. The ownership here on the DraftKings main GPP, I believe it was $150,000 prize pool with $50K. Up top, Joe, I'll just go ahead and read these off so we can get out of here on this Sunday evening. Delano Banton barely beating out Chris Boucher for the top spot, 47.7 to 46.8 in terms of their ownership. Kevin Love starting 34%, getting that number 3 spot over Yuta Watanabe, who's at 32. The 5th spot to your boy Spencer Dinwiddie, 25.5. Then Svi Mikhailuk, 22. John Morant, 19. I think we really like that number.
We do like that quite a bit.
Joel Embiid, 16.5. So I think we like that too. You didn't have to play too much Embiid in an MME build to get over the field. Tremont Waters at min price, 11%. Ricky Rubio getting the start again, 11%. DJ Wilson getting the start at min price, 9%. That's pretty nice. Laurie Markkinen, 8. Desmond Bain, 7. Corey Kispert, 6% on this slate. A lot of believers in Corey Kispert today, I guess. Tyrese Halliburton with those guys back, 5.5%. John Conchar getting the start, 5% next to Jaren Jackson Jr., Kyle Kuzma, Darius Garland. Any other notables here? Dean Wade off the bench held 2.5%. De'Aaron Fox coming back 1.7%. No minutes limit there. That is about it. That 9K Tobias Harris, 0.6%, Joe. So everybody
this is going to be an incredibly high scoring slate.
I agree.
Like you know how FanDuel like gives projections. Like my lineup is projected for 355.
Goodness.
For what it's worth, like I really like that DJ Wilson ownership at 9%. And I also really like Svi. I think you said he was around 22.
Yep.
I like Svi quite. I'm surprised that Delano Banton was the highest owned Toronto Raptor. I get it was 3-2. So I guess it makes sense. I faded him, so I'm unfortunately hoping for Delano Banton to fail, but it's going to be very hard for him to at this price.
Yeah, what a jerk, Joe Metz. But it's right.
Guys.
It's that's that's what we expect from Joe, right? You get Stefano over promising, under delivering, and you get Joe just being an all around jerk. So Buju Banton shout out by Jay the Saint. There you go. I'm not sure everybody would catch on to that one, but I hear you, Jay the Saint. I guess Joe, that'll go ahead and get us out of here. Anything else for you before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Excited. Obviously, monitor that Malcolm Brogdon news, especially if you played Kerris Levert or have a pivot in place, because if he is ruled out, 8-8 and 6-6 are both smashable prices for Kerris Levert.
No question about it. Appreciate everybody tuning in the middle of their NFL Sunday to be with us and talk some NBA DFS. Whether you're catching us for free on YouTube or Twitter or in the FTN NBA Discord. I'm Zach. That's Joe. Shout out Thomas, our producer extraordinaire behind the glass. Good luck in your contest tonight. And as always,
let's get these beans.